Okay, great. Thanks, Dwight. Thanks everyone for expressing an interest in this training. I believe Dwight offered it at the last MACD meeting, so this will be the last one that we will do for this year that I'm aware of. So this one is to do with our federal reporting again. It is what we call the 5S2 quality program measurement. It is a new data collection that we do here in the department. Many of the CTEs already do this as part of their normal business, but it just hasn't been submitted to us in the past. So this is our first time collecting it, and we have a new way of doing it. In the future years, there may be a different option. For this year, we're only doing one, is like an upload, like most CTEs are doing currently for data submission to us. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Just so you're aware as we go through the presentation, um, this quality measurement was selected by the state board, and every state had the option to pick a minimum of one measurement, and they could pick up to three. Maine selected to just take one measurement because we felt quality was better over quantity, and it allows us to really focus in on one area versus trying to spread too thin. So we really feel as though with the state board electing this measurement, it's really something that we already currently are doing it to some extent in the field. Is now we're just going to collect and hopefully be able to demonstrate the student completion in the areas. So for right now, the naming of it is a little awkward. I will say that. If you read somewhere in our documentation, it says CTE credit bearing. That is the same as the 5S2. We originally started this project about 2.5 years ago looking at it. And some of you folks may remember in Infinite Campus way back when we collected this data in that data set as a voluntary collection. So we carried it forward, but now we're actually using it for federal reporting. So we aligned the name, but we didn't align it in some of the original programming. So over the course of the summer, I'll make that correction so the documentation all appears correct and it's synced up with everything else. So this measurement is looking for the amount and type of credit hours students are enrolling into at different institutions. And with the way our listing is working right now, institutions is not just community colleges. It has a variety of partners. And we did that based on using data collection from what we did originally in Infinite Campus and the feedback we got from that years ago. So when we developed this new list, we made sure we address some of those concerns that people had. So this year is not a typical year. As everyone knows, it's been an awkward year for everybody. Normally in a typical year, this reporting period would open up on January 1st and end June 30th. This allows you to submit information to us at any time during that period and doesn't have to wait until the end of the year. So if you have some students who complete some of the coursework early, that you can submit it in January if they happen to take it in the fall semester, so you can get some of these off your plate earlier. For this year, we know that two things has happened. One, this collection had been pushed further down the development line because of other departmental needs and COVID-related developments. So this is getting to you later than we normally would like. But even so, by June 30th, we would like to still have you submit all the data that you have collected around these student courses. This way, we will be able to evaluate the success of the collection and see where we need to go. I will interview or survey all directors after this and see how both of our new collections went and some of the issues where you had, so I can make corrections going into next year, and there'll be hopefully we can solve any kind of problems that we're having. Currently, I haven't heard much on the other collection. That would be the 3S1, but still, I'll follow up with everyone just to make sure. Always want to try to be taking down any barriers or any other hiccups that we have. We're always trying to fix those. So we have tried to be consistent, and we work with the help desk to try to align so information can be found in one area. And I'm grateful today that Ryan Cunningham from the help desk, he's a help desk manager, has joined the training today just to hear what this new measurement is about. So we try to put everything onto their instructional page, so it allows for you folks to find all the information in one spot. We know historically some CTEs found it frustrating to have some information on the CTE portion of the DOE website and some instructions at the help desk. So now we're trying to merge everything to the help desk, so it's one nice spot to find it. They've done a great job of keeping information up to date, and they even got information out already for next year on some of the areas. So you can go out to their webpage and grab this information. Currently, it is, as you can see on the screen, it's the arrowed bullet that we'll be working on today. Like Dwight said, we will be sending this presentation out, the recording of it, but because I wanted to help out and get this information to you even a little bit more quickly, I will be sending out this document today probably as a PDF. So the links that I have included in these areas will work. So if you send it to someone, they can just click on my web page, and it'll take them to the right web page. The credit bearing will take them to that data information as well. So you'll be receiving that by the end of the day too. So you can use that when you pass it forward to someone else. Excuse me. So we're going to start diving in a little bit into the weeds of this and looking at what are those three components that are required for this collection that we haven't done before. Most of the standard information you folks already have, like student number, what zip code the student is taking, what date they started. Those are already, you already have, so those are not new collections, but will be included with this one as well. But the actual collection here is looking for the credit type. So we had to design different types of credit that's being enrolled into by the students. And we have broken it down into, I believe it was 4 total. The first one is advanced placement. This has come through research that we did and feedback we received from several directors the first time we did this while in Infinity Campus. At that time, one of the shortcomings was we were not collecting advanced placement classes that were directly connected to the programs. So we have now added that into as a credit type that can be submitted to us. Because there are several courses that could relate to us, and then there's also some that do not. So that's kind of a determination we'll talk about in a little bit that you folks will be able to make on your side. These are the federal definitions of each, and when we actually when you submit the information to us, we ask that the course be coded with these values. Our system will recognize those values and will flow in naturally then. I think the majority, if I remember correctly from before, most of them will be probably the dual credit code that you'll be using for the most part, and that is just a standard. If a student is taking a course at a community college, at a institution and receiving credit both at the CTE and the college for those efforts, that's or the part, excuse me, the institution, then that's what the code you'd use. Before we used to look at where was the course taught. Was it taught at the high school, and or was it taught at the partner? We don't have to measure that. Excuse me. So we're not asking for that level of detail. Just either spot. If your instructor is authorized to teach on behalf of a partner, that's fine. Or if the student actually goes and attends classes at the institution, that's fine. They fall under both the same category.
Sean, we did have a question about the institutions. Just are these institutions all post-secondary, or just the high schools as well?
It's just going to be all post-secondary, and I'll cover that just a little bit. But it's not just post-secondary as we think of like colleges or universities. It is more diverse than that. So, yep, I'll cover that. I think that's in the next section coming up. So, continuing on with the credit types, this is, we did have to create a new one called Enhanced Articulation, which is looking at currently, Dwight has worked with the community colleges to get two programs aligned. So some of the courses they take will align with the automotive program or electrical. So if you have students enrolled into those two programs, when you send in their coursework, we would ask for the code of other be placed on that enrollment, just so we can determine they are part of the two zip codes. As time goes on, we will increase that. I think it's called a MOU that's been developed. And as more courses are added, we will update these instructions to always share with you what those programs are. And then the last type that we have is another new one that we had to create from scratch, and it is when a CTE and a student is enrolled into what we normally call it's commonly known as the Bridge Year programs. This would be the CTE and academics code that you'd want to use for this. We are looking, because that is a state-run grant, and we want to be able to measure the different coursework that's being offered in that. So we had to develop this code. And this code is not a federal code. We are going to be talking to the feds to see if we're able to submit it. And I believe all the documentation we have so far says we can. We're assuming we can, so that's why we want to collect it. Even though it's separate, it'll still be part of your counts. So those are the 4 types of different credit hours that can be submitted to us, and that's the first part of the 3 elements that we need sent to us. The next one, as we were just chatting about a little bit, was institutions.
One quick one before you jump to that. Are homeschoolers included?
Homeschoolers, if they're enrolled into your CTE and they're taking any coursework at a partner, a institutional partner, yes, they have the same. I'm not gonna say the same rights, but they're in the same level as any other CTE enrolled student. So again, looking at, we really learned from our mistakes or limitations in the past, that when we looked at creating this new institutions list, that we're trying to be very thoughtful on who we included. And by doing so, I believe it was in 2019, I asked all directors to send me a list of their articulation partners. And I used that list and also went through like the state of Maine and found others that weren't on that list, included everybody in this listing. And you can see I even went to the point where if a student was going to attend a different campus, I included those because sometimes they may be done virtually now. So I want to make sure that I just didn't limit to physical locations. So I included all the ones I could find that were articulated in the different campuses if they so are enrolled in it. If the partner has said, this course is, it's online, but let's say if it's a Denver course, but it's online, going through Denver, you have the right to select that. So I've included as much as I possibly could. I can't remember top of my head how many we have, but it's all based on at least all the courses, or excuse me, all the partners that were submitted to me back in about 2019 as we started looking at Perkins. So the documentation that we have online will give you all the codes to each school. And this list is also updated with all the cosmetology schools, which is a post-secondary partner in this case, but not a traditional college or university. And also I included other entities like I believe Wyoming Tech is on here, which is just a technical trade school, which it's not a college or university, it's private. And that's another example of trying to encompass everybody in this list.
Okay. Yep. Yeah.
So the other part that would be submitted to us is the amount, and that is just the amount of credit hours. I didn't make a slide for this because it's just if the course they are taking is worth 3 credit hours, then that's what you submit to us as part of that for that student. Is they're looking at 3 credit hours. If I think the credit hours are all designed to work on increments of 0.25, so it should have the values between, I believe it goes as low as 0.25 up to 20 credit hours. And this is not per school, this is just per course. We'll cover that just in a little bit, but that's just the amount. So pretty straightforward on that one. So general guidelines, this is where how do you apply this information to actually build the material that's going to be sent to us. So I developed several of these guidelines that I could think of to help with this process. And as we work through this, if we find out additional ones, I will include them. But generally speaking, the first thing is that each course is to be reported only once per student and 1 per row on the upload form. So this will help us count how many courses students are taking, either by student or by school. By doing such, courses, if a student is taking more than 1 course at the same institution, those cannot be grouped together and reported as a sum total, because then that would eliminate the possibility to count how many courses. So if this happens, and I have some scenarios I'll cover in just a moment, that details how you do that if a student is taking multiple courses at one institution. So just a general rule you can see by the example that I have on the screen here is you have the student information, your school's information, what year that we're involved with, the zip code the student is enrolled in at your school. As I mentioned earlier, zip code and CTE code are interchangeable at this point. Then we have the institution's number that was on that listing from earlier, the type, and the amount. So this allows us to capture everything about that one course that student is taking. And I know historically, we always do, we think of our CT programs as a program, not a course. But when we're looking at external partners in this collection, it's all the courses that we need to collect. That'll give us that that level of interaction that we're looking for. So it is a little different than we normally think of. But it's the traditional way that schools, most post-secondary partners function anyway. Continuing on with the general guidelines, as mentioned earlier, for bridge year students, you're going to want to use that CTE and academic code. That will help us actually help to define the value just for that grant. And the official name is PL 318, but I know most CTEs refer to it as bridge year, so I want to make sure trying to eliminate any confusion with that. And then there's some zip codes that we are not going to report on, and those are listed here on this slide. Some of these are like academic programs that students enroll in because they're already taking another CTE zip code, so don't need to report it for that reason. Then a couple of them are actually, they're not one of our programs. They are like JMG is not an official CTE program, so that would not be able to be accounted for federal information, so we had to include that one as well. Then the other ones are state defined, which again is not federally defined, so we don't want to count them in this collection too.
Sean, what if the academics program does offer dual enrollment?
I would have to see, they're not just taking the course, they have to be taking something like auto body, and then they're taking the academics, we'll say. If the course that they're taking, let's say it's AP English, for example, if that directly relates to the program, then yes, that would be counted. If it's not directly related, it would not be. And we'll cover that just a second as well. But that's when you have to start making those determinations on especially AP courses, which are the academic ones. And it's not just it's just not related to the ones that are attending at our school. It would be if they're taking AP courses back at their high school and it's directly connected to their CTE program, then you'd want to count that as well. And the next slide will give us a little bit more details. So here is an example that for AP courses that they can be counted if they're directly related, and if they're not directly related, they should not be. And here's an example that I provided. So let's say they're taking an AP course in biology, and they are a nursing student. That you could make the argument that is directly related and enhances the technical standards that are being taught. So that one should be counted. In contrast, if you look at a student who's taken AP biology and they're taking auto body, even though AP biology is a very educational, valid program, it does not offer much enhancement to local technical standards. So that one would not be counted. Okay. For me, the easiest way I found to convey how these are laid out was to actually build scenarios so people can use them as references to go back to as they look at how to build their upload forms. And I'm sure I didn't think of every scenario, and I will continue making additional ones as people contact me and have concerns. I'll be able to definitely build additional ones that I may not have thought of. So we'll start off very simple and work our way up to more complex versions of it.
You may cover this in this scenario, but one of the questions as you walk through it that we got are we reporting actual credits earned or the student opportunity to earn the credit that are available through a program?
For this year, it is opportunity to earn. Just because two things. One, internally and with the feds, we need to define that a little bit more closely to make sure we're in alignment with that. And then we have to determine that, the federal definition is obtained versus enrolled. So that's why all my documentation this year says enrolled into. So that is, they have the opportunity to. We're not asking, did they pass? We're not asking that level of detail either at this point. That may change for next year's collection, but for this year, no, we're just looking at the opportunity. Thanks, Dwight. So here's a typical one, and I think the first two are kind of like the most common ones folks are going to have, and probably going to be the majority of the submission. So in this example here, the scenario, we have this student with their student ID. They're enrolled into a into a program, and that program isn't one that's listed above. They are enrolled in one course with a partner, and it is directly related to their program. So in this scenario, we would assign the zip code to the course and submit it in the upload form. In this example here, you can see, here is where we actually put the credit the student has the opportunity to earn, the type that this qualifies for, the actual institution from the listing that we have of different institutions. The start date can be the date of when the student enrolled into your CT program, or later. That's fine. Either one will work fine. The zip code is what they're enrolled at your school. And then the rest of the information is the school year, your school's ID, the student number, and then your district or your region number. So I know right now for the Infinite Campus users we have, Infinite Campus is working directly on making I don't know what they call it, an export or an upload form. I'm not sure what they call it, to help with this information. I've worked directly with them on several calls now, so they can produce this report for you. I don't know when they're going to have that ready, but I know they're working on it. So just so you're aware of that. So this is, I think this is probably the most common one we'll see. Fairly straightforward. It's in any time that if you come up with a situation you're unsure of, definitely have your folks reach out to me, and I can help determine the information that needs to be done. But I think I can't put exact number on it, but I'm going to say it had to be close to 60% of the old data that I had. And when I looked at it, this scenario was the most common one that was there. The next scenario that was second to the listing was if a student is taking more than one course from a partner and enrolled in one zip code. So in that situation, you would assign the zip code and you would upload it just as you see here on the upload form. And just as this example is, it doesn't necessarily will happen all the time, but these could be the exact same credit hours. They're two different courses, but they may carry the same credit hour amount. So they would look identical when you put it on the sheet, but they're actually two different courses, and that's fine. We did not go to the level to say we needed like the name of the course to distinguish the differences if they happen to be duplicates. We trust you folks won't have duplicates in this. So we didn't go to that level of collection asking for that information. So this one here follows the same pattern. Student information on this side, and then the zip code will be assigned same here. Start date, whatever date they started, or the date of when they enrolled into your school's program. They have to be at the same institution and going forward. If they were different institutions, same thing. These could be changed. If this is a different type, this could be changed. So it's all basically follows that same general rule of one course per line as you walk down through the form. Here's a scenario of a student taking a program and taking an AP course back at their high school, and it's not directly related. In those situations, nothing should be submitted to us for that example. And that would be like the auto body biology example I gave earlier. That's not directly connected, so it would not be submitted. Our next example would be if the student is enrolled into a program listed above. I think there's 12 of them up there, and if they took a program and the course is not directly related, could be directly related or not directly related, it still is one of those special zip codes that we don't collect from, so that should not be submitted to us either. The next example is we're looking at a student who has enrolled into 2 of your programs at the school and is taking a directly related course from a partner. And in this situation, it could be the zip code, the course can be related to either one of the zip codes, directly related. So at this point, you just need to determine which one you want to assign it to. You just cannot assign it to both, since programs can only be submitted once per student. So you pick either one you want and you submit it, and that's the value you would have. In this example, I could use this zip code or the 526718. Either one would have worked in this example. This one gets a little bit more confusing, but it was one of the rarities that I found, but it was an example I found in the old data where a student is enrolled into 2 programs at your school and taking multiple courses from a post-secondary partner institution. On this one here, you have the ability, when they're both directly related, to you can either assign one. In this case, since they're taking 2, it would be one course to each zip code, or you can assign them to the same zip code or the second same zip code. Makes no difference on the counts and the quality of the data collection. They're all equal the same way you do it. So we're not looking for, we'll be able to produce a report saying that, we'll say this zip code here is able, last year earned, students had the opportunity to earn 200 credit hours. But that's not the purpose of this measurement. It's more about how many counts are coming in overall. So to determine this value here, it's your preference on how you wish to report it. You report, both of them, one for each, or 2 of them for the same zip code, or 2 for the secondary zip code. They'll be all the same count in the final totals.
So Sean, one of the questions is why are we asking them to be responsible for reporting the AP classes that they take at their home school?
Because the AP courses, if they're directly related, can assist the students, and also it helps to increase the credit hours and course count for the CTE. So we want to make sure you're getting credit for the students' activities. Historically, we did not do that, and we had complaints that, let's say if we're counting the courses taken out of school and there was 19 and there were actually 20 because one was an AP course that was directly related to, in my earlier example, we'll say nursing and um, biology, the CTE felt as though they should have the right to also use that AP course as part of their collection. So that's why we included it. It's definitely something that we can talk about after the fact for next year, and something we can bring to MACD and all of the membership to discuss it. I'm open to that for the next term, definitely. Going on to the next one, we're looking at this scenario here. Student is enrolled into one zip code, and they're taking one directly related course and one not directly related course. In this example here, you would look at only reporting to us the directly related course. And in this example, it was the OSHA course that's directly related for this example. So those are the scenarios that I was able to kind of pull out from the information I could find and build. There may be additional ones. I'm happy to explore more over time with you folks to see if there's some examples to look at, or if we need to tweak this as something that we will look at over the course of the summer to make sure that when we get the data. This is our first time collecting it, so it is a little bit daunting to find out where we are. We know from historical information roughly the values we picked were pretty close to what we had when we submitted our state plan and all that. But this is our first one officially collecting the information and trying to produce the counts. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but we have got some information from the feds that we'll be sharing next week. So at this point, if your data isn't 100% collected at the time that it must be submitted by June 30th for just this year, it won't count against you as a penalty. So the feds have given us that leadway on our data collection, and we're doing the same for you folks. We're going to also do that. But we still ask for as much information and accurate as possible. So when we come back to you in the fall and start looking at this, and I survey all the membership to see what was the problems we found, that we use the most accurate information going forward with those discussions to see if we need to fix or tweak something that we can. So that's why we want to make sure we get as close as possible. With that, I've built what you would expect to see using all the scenarios we just went through, what an upload form would look like. And you can see in this example here, I have 3 different versions of it, only because of the flexibility of how you wish to report that one situation where the student can have the zip code assigned to the coursework assigned to different zip codes. So, but the data is all the same. This is what the typical form would look like. And it relays back all the information we need to do the calculations. This is just the 3rd example of that same information that we just seen in the first 2. With that said, I'm open to address any other questions that may have come up that Dwight didn't catch or has come to mind. I'm happy to address them at this point and see what I can do to assist with any more clarifying terms.
So one of the last ones is, where do they go to enter the data? And is it currently ready and available for them to go in and enter in this information?
Yes. The help desk has built both a upload template and all the information to actually do that process. That was, I'm going to just jump around this slideshow here a little bit. So all that information is located back on this page here. Oops. This is where they actually talk about the information here, how to upload it, the sample file that's pre-built that you'd have to take out the sample information, but you can still use the same file. And then the data dictionary has all the terms and institutions and all that information there. So this right here is all the data you would need to go ahead and produce this. And this link here, once you get the actual PDF of this, will work to send you out to this web page in general, or this right here to send you down to the guides and all that. So this is where the collection is.
Sean, if you don't mind me jumping in, on that same page, you'll also see that there is a manual entry guide. So if somebody is looking to do this through manual entry and not through an upload, there is a guidance document on that same page for that.
Great. I hadn't heard back from the project manager to know if that was available yet, but that's great to know. So they'll be able to go directly into Synergy and enter in the same information that way too. So thank you for that update, Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely.
And looking at this sheet here, if they want to do it manually, looks like this is it right here underneath manual entry. They can go right here and grab that. Most likely it's a PDF, and they could walk through that same process. For that one, they're going to have to do it per student and know the student number, jump back and forth instead of an upload form. But either way, they can accomplish it. That's great. That's a great update, Ryan. Thank you.
So I don't have any more questions. I don't know if there's another one that folks, as you're sitting here, you come up with. Feel free to speak up.
Sean, is this slide deck already posted? Is this something you're going to send as an attachment to the attendees?
Yep, it will be sent to you, so it can go to the help desk. So if you wish to incorporate it into your documentation, it'll also be sent to all directors, not just the ones who attended today, and also will be available to anyone else that they want to forward it to. So yes.
Thank you.
Brenda, I think you typed in a question. You want to go ahead and just ask it directly? Perfect timing, huh?
So I'm way behind here, but when are we submitting this information for all of our students, just our graduating seniors, the program completers, whether they're juniors, seniors, sophomores? Who are we doing this for?
This is going to any student who has taken a course from a institution during this year. We no longer have completers. Everyone is considered to be a concentrator. That's the new measurement for Perkins 5.
Yep.
So for the most part, all your students qualify for that. There's only a few cases if they happen to come in like for only half a year or less where they would not qualify. So pretty much any student you have that has taken a course this year would be included.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm glad at times like this, I have lower enrollments than some of the others. Especially if we're doing it manually.
Todd, go ahead.
Thank you. Sean, what about a student that comes to the center and has the opportunity to earn 6 credits at SMCC, but the caveat is they have to go to SMCC, and we know that they're not going to go to SMCC. How do I report that?
Yeah, and that's something that we'll look at a little bit better over the summer to make sure internally that we're lighting to what the feds are looking at. But for this year, if they have the opportunity to earn it, you would want to report it, then yes.
Okay, yep. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
So just for clarity, you mean any student that's like an articulation agreement that Mr. Fields just talked about. So those need to count as well.
If they actually are actively participating in that agreement, yes. So let's say if a student is in auto body and they have the opportunity to take a course at a community college for OSHA, but they are not actively doing it, then no, they're not reported. But if they are actually taking that course, yes. Just because the articulation agreement is in place, if the student isn't actively doing it, then that would not be reportable. But if they're actively doing it, absolutely. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Anything else? As Sean said, this is we're all learning as we make this transition. So certainly, as you go through it, you have questions, reach out, and we'll do our best. And as we wrap up this year, we'll look for feedback and how we can certainly improve things moving forward. So
there's one last thing I wanted to share, if I could. It'll be on the slide deck when you get it. I'm not able to get my slide deck to move right now for some reason. I wanted to share that the help desk is also doing a end of year reporting checklist webinar. And the link will be active when I send the file out. So if you wish to attend that, please go out and register for it. The more the merrier. I will be attending as well to address any CTE directly related questions, but the help desk also will cover generally what is expected at the end of the year during that process. So I want to make sure that everyone knows they're available, or that's available to them to attend as well. So that will be included in the slide deck when it goes out. And that's all I have, Dwayne.
great. Thank you, Sean. Thank you all for participating. Great questions. Sean's going to immediately send you some information so you have it at your fingertips. And then when we'll get this recording downloaded and get that ready for you and get that out as quickly as we can. So,
Hey, Dwight,
yes.
I missed one piece. When is it due? Or Sean? Oops, sorry.
That's okay. Sorry, I had to unmute myself. It is due June 30th. And it's an upload that will go into Synergy.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Great. Thank you all.